All
All
right.
right.
Is it clear? Yeah. All right. So the pre-work for the ideas of a communicative English virtual class, which was assigned, is on the screen here. Today we'll be discussing about the communicative English virtual class. And before we get into how we can make this virtual class interesting, I would like to know your viewpoints on the conduction of a good communicative English virtual class. If any participant has worked on it, I would like to know. You can write it on the chat box or unmute and express your viewpoint. Differences between the relationship between a student and teacher in a virtual and a face-to-face class. What differences do you acknowledge? And is knowing grammar a mandatory part of communicative English? State your reasons to support your answer. So anybody who's going to speak on the pre-work?
Yeah, I would just like to add what I do in class, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, for a good communicative English virtual class, we just, it is like one child starts reading and the child calls out another name and the other child continues reading. So that's how they read first. And then whatever, is clear about the topic and not clear, I always tell them, the fastest finger first. So the dictation and, some new word which I introduce, the meaning, all that they type in the chat. So I don't give them a chance to Google. So it is the fastest finger first. So whatever meaning they have understood, they type in the chat. And I see that each and every child, communicates at least one sentence every class. Otherwise, the child feels left out and does not, think twice for not attending the next class. There is involvement by every child in the class.
Yes, by making every child read, you ensure that they are involved. Sometimes they are, physically present but mentally absent. So randomly, if you just, call any roll number and ask them to carry forward the reading done before them, they will be, certainly taken aback. So by making them involved into reading is ensuring that yes, they are partaking in your class. That's good. Anybody else?
Ma'am, good evening.
Good evening.
In the usual routine that we do in a class, starting with a model reading, followed by reading in chunks, asking them to refer to the dictionary, pick out the meaning, and then write. We give them some time, like 5 minutes, 3 minutes time in between. Different class groups are made and they are allotted different portions of the story. And in between, just as a surprise, you ask, okay, what is the meaning of this word and who will tell the synonym of that, antonym of that? And, they run towards catching up. Give me a minute, I'll look for the meaning. So the class is energized. Other way is you can also take up storytelling sessions in the class. We also had, few sample audio stories which were played, and then children were prepared worksheet was made, simple questions on what, where, when, how, comprehension relating to the sequence of events. And then audio was played and they were asked to, what they heard twice it was played, and then they were to write the answers in the worksheet, and it was done, in the class. So it brings out their interest as well as vocabulary, comprehension, creativity, at times critical thinking question. Had you been so and so, what you would have done? And if you were supposed to give the ending to the story, how would you end it in today's version, in today's time? So these are the things which can, build up their vocabulary unknowingly. It is not per force learning. And making vocabulary trees, dictionary mandatory affair in the class, I think these do add value to their input in what they are learning.
Yes, I thoroughly agree with you, Ms. Pandey, making them, understand word meanings, synonyms, and asking them to build vocabulary trees is a wonderful, activity to enrich your class. So that definitely adds to good learning as well. So differences between the relationship between a student and teacher in a virtual and face-to-face class. The whole of last year, I'm sure all the teachers have been taking online classes, and they must have, understood a clear-cut, difference between a face-to-face and a virtual class. So, can you just state two major differences between these two modes of teaching?
Ma'am, on one hand, we can say that it is a Pandora box. The whole world virtually at a click is away, but you need to be aware to where to click and when to click and how to get the information. And because both were new, students were also not so familiar with the system as were the teachers. But yes, some of you were privileged ones, the children, they could access it well, whereas other children like EWS and those who do rely on one phone at home and father takes the phone, so they were like finding it difficult. And as a teacher, we were vulnerable how to communicate and tell all these things to them. Though we had made systems, but this was the major first thing. And the other one is, yes, face-to-face interaction. Nevertheless, no matter how advanced you become, what you get as a personal relationship and touch, that was, drastically missing in online classes.
Yeah, basically your virtual lessons are, mono-channel communications. The teacher asks a student and
True.
waits for him or her to answer, whereas in a face-to-face class, the question is probably reflexively put to all present in the class. And this multi-channel conversation is missing in a virtual class, which is, a very major difference. And in terms of the development of a child, I would say face-to-face classes by far the best mode of teaching. But since there is no choice, we are trying to make our virtual lessons as interesting as possible, as relevant, meaningful. So all the teachers are working hard to it. But yes, of course, it's a major challenge and there is a major difference as well. Then we come to the third pre-work, is knowing grammar, a vital part of communicative English. By this, I would like to know your viewpoint that as a teacher of English, do you enforce learning grammar as an integral part of the language or not?
I would like to add that what we hear, that our learning is through more of hearing and speaking rather than writing. Writing is the later part. So what they hear, if the quality is improved upon that, I think just not giving them rules 1, 2, 3, 4, and just telling them like did plus first form of the word. If we use the sentence, that would be much more interesting. We can have different means and methods to communicate in that way, but just giving grammar rules, I don't think is the good idea, is the idea that should be encouraged rather.
Yeah, yeah. As a teacher, if I say that grammar is not required, it would be politically incorrect. So let us put it the other way, that since all of us are teachers of English, we really don't have a preconception in mind as to which tense to use while we are talking or while we are teaching or while we are writing. It is basically our exposure to the language in totality itself that brings fluency and that brings, a flow in writing. We don't have to think of any grammatical rules in our heads before we start speaking. So that applies as well to the children. I mean, children who are exposed to a good learning atmosphere, if they have a good, reading habit, if they have a good habit of, looking into English movies, watching English movies, reading some good fiction, I'm sure grammar will take a backseat. They will not find it difficult to converse and have a good fluency in the absence of learning grammar. So grammar is fine. It is needed for, for the heck of grammar, for clearing your grammar paper, or for, what you call the ABC section in the 8th, 9th, 10th classes that you have in the English paper. But other than that, learning grammar as a part of, as a mandatory part of communicative English is not really, advisable. As you said that giving them rules, giving them, charts as to what tense comes first, the first form, second form, the child more or less gets confused. So it is better that we jump over to making the child learn English by, actually thinking in English. So when you start thinking in English, you start speaking in English rather than translating it from one language into another, or, forcing grammar rules on them. So, I mean, that is what I feel. And as Manjula also said, that grammar is important, but it is not a mandatory part of communicative English. All right. So let us have some reflections for a communicative English virtual class. As an English teacher, how have you transacted or translated face-to-face lesson into online lesson? Was this transaction easy? Reading the text in the classroom face to face and taking the same lesson online, as we already discussed, it is a challenge. And in the initial months, it was really tough for the children and the teachers to understand the system and to get registered to the fact that we are into a virtual class. So how you must have done it? Was that transaction easy? If you're just starting out teaching English, what can you expect when teaching in a virtual classroom? What is the teacher's expectation? In a face-to-face class, the expectations of a teacher and the learner are different. And in a virtual classroom, similarly, the expectation of the teacher and the learner are different. How can you make sure that you keep learners, particularly a group of learners, engaged and give them plenty of opportunity to practice English? So these are certain points that we need to reflect upon, and over the last 10-12 months we have worked on these reflections, and most of the teaching faculty has drawn certain beautiful conclusions, and I have a whole list of reactions and reflections from various teaching faculties, which I'll share with Mansi, and then you can add your inputs to it. So these are the questions that come to our mind to host a virtual class in communicative English. Now let us see some ideas which can improve, which can add some frill to your online classes in English. You can set polls and quiz questions. Now, before you begin with a lesson in your classroom, as I told you even in my earlier sessions, the teacher has to do a bit of homework. So if you are on to any chapter, say chapter 7, which is if I take into consideration the same chapter as Glimpses of India in class 10, you can set a poll and few quiz questions, which will be like pre-work for the learners. You can use polls as starting points for discussions, and then you can check the understanding of the child. You can also, answer your students to deviate from the PowerPoint, and if you are, please don't be afraid or don't be apprehensive to skip from your PPTs and what your learners already know. So that would set the momentum in the classroom. Use the chat box. Chat box, you already know, you have been using it. It's a teaching to reinforce instructions, or, you can back channel with a struggling student who's unable to understand or who has some questions in his mind. So chat box is a very informative tool. Write on the board. The teachers have a board at home, and the students can use the pen, or he can use, some what you call tools which are there on the tablet or on the iPad or on the laptop to write and get their queries, answered by the teacher. Record function, this is very important, and I think in my second session, I was discussing about the record function. You can use this function in order to understand what your learners are trying to ask. Sometimes there is a disturbance, sometimes there is a technical glitch, or the child's voice is not audible due to some reason. So if you switch on the record function, it will enable you to know exactly what your children are about to ask. You can incorporate videos to captivate their attention. You can have some speaking activities, and you can then record your learners' oral answers. Create the information gap. You always have to remember that your activities are creating some kind of need, some kind of necessity to communicate with the student. Whatever lesson you are taking, whatever activity you are conducting in the classroom, that means you have to leave an unfinished session to carry forward. That need, that information gap, that curiosity to be carried forward. So with that information gap, if you create, the teaching becomes interesting. Your learners are a valuable resource. The most valuable resource are your students. They may come to class, with their own ideas, with their own experiences, with their own opinions. So you have to use this to engage either in a role play, or you can have a situation, probably they are themselves in that situation. So use your learners as a resource. You go prepared to a class, and in your online class, your learners can be used as a wonderful resource because they are more tech savvy. They are more, interested in using net and Google to find out information. So consider them as a very, very valuable resource. Plan your interaction patterns. Much more than face-to-face class, you need to plan ahead for each task, because multi-channel face-to-face tasks make things easier. Here in a mono-channel communication in an online class, things have to be dealt more, more rigorously. Things have to be understood much in advance. Things have to be, envisioned, so that the problem of not having a multi-channel interaction does not lead to in any way camouflaging what you really want to tell your learners. I've already discussed about this. We'll go on this quickly. Create poll or Google form for your lesson. Grammar or for writing skills beforehand. Use polls as a starting point for discussion, or check some understanding of a language point. And then crucially, use the answers your students give to deviate from the PowerPoint. Don't be afraid to skip what your learners already know. Creating a poll is very helpful. Then for chat box, as I already discussed, use it as a teaching aid to reinforce instruction or back channel with a struggling student. Integrate the chat function into activities by getting students to share answers, opinions, ideas. You can also use podcasts, a very important and a very entertaining tool. Then writing on the board gives students control to write or highlight on the whiteboard in a session. The children also can use pen as a tool, as I told you, to highlight, to underline, to encircle, and the teacher also can, spot out the errors, spot out the grammatical errors, spot out the spelling errors by encircling on a whiteboard. Great for brainstorming ideas or eliciting vocabulary, for getting students to find mistakes in a text or to identify words. It is very essential that the teacher has a marker board for an online virtual class. Whether it's not only in mathematics and science that you need it, you need it in all the subjects, and more so in languages. Then the record function, as I already said, you can set up speaking activities, record your learners. At home, you can listen back and get to students engaged critically with the recordings in some way, like pronunciation or diction or clarity or articulation of speech, whatever you want to focus on, whatever you want to improvise upon, that can be heard other than the virtual class. Creating information gap, already discussed, some kind of need to communicate with students, to leave an unfinished session to carry forward, so that you generate and encourage interaction. Learners are a very valuable resource, as I said. They come to class with their own ideas, I'm repeating, with opinions and experiences. Use the learners, use this to engage your learners either in a role play or to match a situation they have themselves been in. They can connect, they can relate, and thereby understand better. Remember also that you literally have the world at your fingertips, as Manjulata had already said, and think about whether your learners can find resources for the class or during the class by visiting website themselves. You need to plan your interaction patterns much more than in a face-to-face class. You need to plan ahead, because multi-channel face-to-face becomes mono-channel. You can use the private chat to prompt learners to ask each other questions. You can also think about whether you actually need to be there. Sometimes, your learners will talk more freely if you set up an activity, switch off your camera, and after having nominated one student to lead the activity, give them some time. Switching off your camera intermittently will give them the freedom to work better. So try this trick, and I'm sure it will increase the speed in which the children are working in a virtual class. It will also give them some kind of liberty to have random jokes and fun, which will make the class, which will invigorate them for the activity. That here I have some frills for in online virtual class. We can use certain activities to make your class interesting. What we can do is, unlike the face-to-face class where you can hand over worksheets and then go about the class seeing how the children are working in pairs, what we can do is we can describe a photograph in an online session to your students and give them some 5 minutes to prepare themselves to speak on it. Say, for example, if I have this, I can show this to my children and they can memorize the picture and speak on the picture. So this gives them, some kind of vocabulary building capacity increases, and the sentence framing, etc. Spot differences between the two pictures. Sometimes, you must have seen as a kid, we have been playing with these kind of spot differences in magazines and all. At the outset, the pictures appear to be very similar, but when you go and look at them deeply, you will find there are certain very minute differences. So sometimes you can use this activity in the online class to mark the differences, which will make the children feel, happy and just, a fun activity. Compare and contrast. This has worked very well with me. I've been using it, and my teachers also use it very frequently in their virtual classes. Say, if you give them an activity to compare and contrast, for example, a teacher in a classroom and farmer in a field. Both the professions, the teacher and the farmer, ask them what similarities do both the teacher and the farmer have in the classroom and in the field respectively, and let them come out with various viewpoints. Support your content with YouTube videos, some not very lengthy YouTube videos. You can support your lesson with say about maximum 3 to 4 minutes. If you have a long YouTube video, then the children tend to lose, interest, and they become defocused. So the content should match with the YouTube for a very, very short span. Scavenger hunt. Scavenger hunt is a very, very, interesting activity. I'm sure most of the teachers must be knowing what it is and how it is to be done with the children online. Your children are in the comfort zone of their homes. You can just ask them to fetch, say, 2 yellow things which are edible, and your child would run into the kitchen and get probably a yellow capsicum or a banana. Some child would get something else. You can also ask them to get 2 blue satiny things, or you can randomly, you can just ask them for, say, mentioning some stuffed toy, to bring 2 stuffed toys and show it to the other children on the camera. So scavenger hunt can be played according to the level of your class, as per the activity, as per the content of the teacher's plan. You can have a word game. Word game is also a very, very helpful tool in making your virtual class very interesting. You can ask the children to just mention verbally, say, for example, 5 things we use in a backpack. So the child will say, we have to have a water bottle and this. Or you can ask them, mention 5 things you see in a gym. Or, mention 5 things you find in a lady's purse. Or mention 5 restaurant chains. So something which will, make their attention, make them understand that yes, there's something interesting going to come in the class. So frills are very essential. Otherwise, the virtual class becomes quite mundane, unlike the face-to-face class, because in face-to-face class, in a span of 40 minutes, there will be some activities which are happening simultaneously. Some child will feel thirsty, would want to go to drink water. Some would want to go to the washroom. Sometimes the child's box will fall from the table, so there'll be a sudden, distraction. Sometimes you'll turn towards the blackboard to write, or there is a peon coming from the principal's office bringing a missive for the teachers. So there will be certain activities which will happen simultaneously in a face-to-face class, which are totally absent in a virtual class. So comparatively, we will find that virtual classes become monotonous, mundane, and the children's interest lasts for a shorter duration than in a face-to-face class. So these frills and fancies are very important for adding into your virtual class to make your lessons interesting. Here I have an example of one activity, categories. Like what you can do is, you can either use pencil, paper, or the chat feature to share the learner's answers. What you can do is, on the board, you can write certain letters and the categories. Why are you doing this? What is the aim? The object of the game is to come up with as many unique answers as possible. Players make a list of their responses in the allotted time. This depends on your students, but I would suggest half a minute is sufficient. After the time is up, they share their answers one by one. Players earn a point for an answer if no one else said the same thing. If 2 or more players wrote the same thing, no one gets a point. Players keep track of their own points for each round. If there is a dispute about an answer, all players vote whether they will allow or deny it. Typical rules say no proper nouns are starting more than one answer with the same word. You have a example here. So supposing on your categories, you write on your whiteboard, words must start with the letter T, and you give certain heads. You want animal starting with letter T. You want some famous store names with T, girls' name, candy, state in the US, TV shows, song titles, jobs, whatever you can add as per the level of the class, as per the learning capacity of the children, as per the requirement. The teacher can modify the contents of the categories. So if I ask you to do this, how much time would you take? Say start with the letter T and animal, tiger. I mean, it takes hardly not even a fraction of a second. Store names, girl's name, candy, US, state, TV shows, song titles, and jobs. So what I want to tell you is that a virtual class needs to be made very interesting, or else the student's interest is lost and there is no scope for the teacher to shake him, to make him understand, or to speak to the parent then and there, or to write a circular for trying to understand what is the reason for the child losing interest in the online class. Most of you must have seen that the attendance in the initial months was very good, but later on, as with passage of time, you must have seen that the attendance was dropping down. Some children would join at the start of the session, and then they would just because they are afraid of the attendance, they are very much worried about the attendance, and then they would vanish. At the end of the lesson, they would again come and show their faces. So lots of these kind of what you call absenteeism. At least in my school, I noticed a lot of these kind of what you call absenteeism, because the children found the online session a little boring. So I think I would like to tell my participants that you can work extensively in making your online lessons very, very attractive. The advice is that we need to be framing mini lessons. If your chapter is divided into 10 units, face-to-face 10 units is easy to cover. But in an online virtual class, especially in languages, it is just impossible to just keep on reading the chapter, covering all the 10 units, discussing all the question answers as we do it in a face-to-face class. So it is the teacher's effort which requires a lot of kickstart and jumpstart, lot of homework to be done, and thereby making your lessons very, very comfortable. You have to really pilot a virtual classroom. So it's a structural shift, basically, like in so many years of our career, we have never taken virtual classes for such a long duration. Now this is almost the the pattern, and we really don't know till when are we going to handle this kind of a situation. So everything will come into, it will fall into place once we know that yes, these are the various methodologies by which we can upgrade our online virtual class. So any ideas that you would like to share, or the participants who would like to ask something regarding, we can have an interactive session if you have to share any inputs here with all the other participants.
Good evening, ma'am. I have a doubt. I want to ask something actually. Ma'am, I'm teaching class 1 and class 2 students. So what happened is they are not able to use the chat box. So now if I'm explaining them something, what happened is they have some doubt, and some of them have same doubt. And then I clear that doubt, but being it a virtual class, this miscommunication happens, and repetitive questions are, that same question is asked repetitive times. So that kills my time, and then my agenda is not fulfilled, and I can't like extend my class for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes because they have the next class, virtual class. So then I just lost that the whole agenda that I have planned before the class, that after that lost. So what should I do to minimize that?
So you mean to say that most of the children have the same question while you are taking the online class, right?
Yes.
And all of them want to personally ask that question, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and they are unable to use the chat box.
Yes. So
See,
they
the
are,
children of class 1 and 2 are, about 5.5, 6 years of age, and it is very difficult for the teacher to, dub their curiosity. So, keeping in view their age, their inability to use the chat box, what we can do is, in advance, you can tell them that on Mondays, I will be asking questions from roll numbers 1 to 10, or say 5 to 15, whatever you plan to. That will help you in minimizing the wastage of time in that sense. So they will also know that today is my turn to ask, and tomorrow is his or her turn, and so on and so forth. So probably that will help you.
okay. Thank you, ma'am. I will surely use this in my class. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. You will have to categorize them roll number wise, or you can adopt any other way to categorize them. Say all the children whose names begin with M or A, or the most common letters, you can categorize them.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
For the categories,
Yes.
while we were revising nouns, we played the name, place, animal, thing. It was just wonderful.
Yeah. 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 Voice is not audible. Is it? Is it okay? Mansi, is it audible? I need to know because.
Ma'am, you are audible.
Okay. Okay. Garima, you can also use certain simulations and animations for smaller children. That will also help you to manage your time. The children will talk less and will see more on the screen.
Yes, ma'am. That I use, but the questions they are asked, so that sometimes creates a problem. So then I will use
Yeah,
your.
yeah,
uh,
yeah, 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 yeah. Yes. Anyone else who wants to share their challenges or some incidents that have happened in their virtual lessons, which probably they have not faced in their face-to-face class, or what do you enjoy more? For the last 1 year, you have been taking virtual lessons. So anyone who would like to, say that I enjoyed face-to-face more than I enjoy taking virtual lessons.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Karina Vambani on this side.
Yes.
As you asked whether as a teacher we liked online or face-to-face, I think I'll go with face-to-face teaching only, because it was having more of liberty and what we say, it was having more of choice for the teachers also to interact with the kids. But then up to this entire year, I will say I learned number of things, especially for English language. I learned how to make games also. Google form I was aware, but I never started with Google Forms. But then I learned that, and Word Wall and H5P for games, just grammar games. So that made me learn number of things. And as you are telling, use the chat windows, I do the same thing. If I'm teaching them adjectives or any other grammar topic, I tell them to describe themselves. If the girl's name is Aditi, I tell her to write with A any of one of the adjective. Or if I'm teaching grade 4, it is either a bag or any descriptive objective they have to write. I show them the bottle or I show them the toy, and they after looking at the toy, then roll number wise they have to speak for that toy or any book, anything. So this number of things even I try that way. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, Karina, I'm sure since you have also taken online classes, now you can really find out the exact difference.
Yes.
Earlier, we would not know what would an online class mean to the learner and to the teacher. So today,
Yes.
at least we are in a position to clear-cut pinpoint as to what a mono-channel class is and what a multi-channel class is.
Yes.
So teachers have learned a lot. They have really become tech savvy, and we can call it as the most important and the positive side of this pandemic is
Pandemic.
that
Yes, ma'am.
all the teachers have really become tech savvy and call us up for learning so much.
Ma'am, even I attended number of workshops because of specially English language. Because when I was teaching in the classroom, it was very easy for me to show them the flashcards, to just take any small game. But I want to do same during online. It was giving me really tough time. But a little bit YouTube and attending the workshops and webinars, then I got so many ideas that for every lesson I was okay, ready. I will do this way and this way. So it was really, but it was really challenging, ma'am. First of all, we have that pen and marker and books. So it was really a challenge, but I did it and it was really good. A revolution, I would say.
So if given a choice, to you today, would you like to continue with online or you would want to switch back to face-to-face?
Ma'am, actually, we can even what we say blended learning. Suppose if I'm going physical also, now I know many online games. So even when I'm meeting them physically, I use games.
So you have a dual advantage. You have a dual advantage. That means your face-to-face classes
should include hybrid learning. Yes, yes, dual advantage. Yes.
Yes.
Dual advantage.
Yes, that's very good. That's very good. Yeah.
Thank you,
Anyone, any other participant who would like to share?
I will also prefer face-to-face classes because we can see the face of the child and we can understand that if they are understanding what we are saying or not. So that is also the fact that is missing in the virtual class. So I also will prefer the face-to-face class.
Yeah, see, basically the emotional content is lacking here in an online virtual class. And for the child's development and for the learners also, it's very essential that that connect is there. So in the absence of that emotional connect, for a long duration, I don't think so online lessons would be successful. We need to get back to the brick and mortar classroom. We need to see our children. We need to hug them. We need to talk to them. We need to understand their what you call problems face to face, and that is by far the best mode. So, but since there is no choice, let us see for how long it lingers on with the online classes. Any participant who just would not want to go back to face-to-face classes? Would want to continue in the comfort of their homes to continue to teach? Is it satisfying? Does it give you any kind of gratification, or does it leave you say dissatisfied, some the feeling of being incomplete?
Ma'am, it would be really calling it a self. We are very comfortable sitting at home and taking the classes. We are grilled to, take up technology, know this, that, and we are really through with it. And we want to practice it further if we have learned it so much. But the line is the level of satisfaction is not there, because when we refer to the annual examination or any examination, then taking examination online, it's cut copy business, or you don't get that subjectivity. So I think we need to have this, going to the classroom is nevertheless the only way, though these can be called addendums or additions to it, but that is the real sense of school and learning.
Correct. I thoroughly agree with you and endorse what you say.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else who would like to give in some input or share? Okay, one question I would like to ask then. In your virtual classes, haven't you noticed that at the start of your virtual lesson, there are 1 or 2 children, and gradually then they join your class, which takes about, say, 7 to 10 minutes. Whereas in a face-to-face class, the moment you enter your class, at one stroke, at one point of time, one instruction works. Have you found this difference? Have you experienced this with your online class? The instruction has to be repeatedly given in an online class more number of times than in a face-to-face. Have you ever felt it?
Yes, ma'am. At times it's genuinely there because of technical glitches, and at times we observe that the students have become knowingly or unknowingly they have become complacent.
Yes.
They take time to do everything. They are in a relaxed mode. Probably that's because of the home environment or whatever. So they aren't taking things seriously as they should be taking.
Yes, yes. They aren't taking things as seriously as they should be taking. Very true. And if this continues for another 6 months, I am sure we'll go back 5 years. We'll go back by 5 years. In order to bring back the same momentum, in order to have the same spirit in the classroom, it will take a lot of time. So we really don't know what the situation would be, but then all fingers crossed. So the teacher and the learner both, get the advantage of getting back to the face-to-face class. Anyone else?
Ma'am, one of the major concern that we teachers have come across is that the students aren't in a habit of writing anymore. Whenever we give them any task, they are quickly ask, the first question is, ma'am, can we type and send the answer? And when class 10 students came to school for the pre-board exams also, they found it really hard to get back into that momentum of writing and sitting for 3 hours at a stretch. So that's the worrisome thing, which is really alarming.
Yes, and you can imagine what will happen when they have to physically write their board exam at the center. So mostly all the schools had organized the pre-board, the last pre-board before, putting off classes of class 10, so that at least they get into the habit of sitting at one place for 3 hours and writing and straining their hand muscles. So we also experienced a lot of problem in this. Children were at a complete loss. They did not know how to, sit in one place for 3 hours. That was the most disappointing change that we noticed in the children. Secondly, they had gotten used to probably, copying at home for online examinations. And you could see some of the children totally at a complete loss, completely ashen face, because they had no idea as to what to write. There was no registration, no understanding of writing the question, then writing the answer, putting a column for mathematical calculations. I mean, 1 year, and they had lost all, connection and touch with what a face-to-face classes or what a face-to-face examinations. So yes, that's very alarming, and individually we'll all have to put in efforts, including all the stakeholders, the parents, the children, the teachers, the coordinators, the management, the principal. Everybody has to really, really work hard in making the children understand that what it is when they get back to the normal mode of face-to-face classes. Any questions? Any more questions for having ideas for a communicative English virtual class? Basically, today I wanted to interact more than being just, one-sided. So I just wanted to have viewpoints from the participants.
For communicative class, I on every Saturday I like take some activity for them, so that they have a break from the studies and they can learn something different. So on every Saturday I used to take activities. It can be related to English or any other subject, so that they can sometimes they can learn new words, or they can start writing these sentences, or they can relate to some surroundings. And also I used to take activities on Saturday, so that it will give them a break, and give them some homework that they can send me, so that it creates a good communication between us. So that I have used in my
Yeah,
work.
I think you take 1 and 2, no, Garima, you just
Yes, ma'am.
mentioned. So yes, for smaller children, it is very essential that 4 days of teaching is fine with them. The fifth day, that is, I don't know, 5 day a week, or how you have your classes. But Saturday, definitely, if you have Saturdays off, then Friday should be the day for communication. Let them have small group debates. Let them have small group discussion that increases their, vocabulary, that helps them to learn to frame sentences at the level of class 1 and 2. Because at home, I'm sure not everybody has an English speaking environment. So it is only from the school that they learn to pick up words and learn to frame sentences. So that's a very good methodology to have communication on 1 day in a week.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you to all the participants for your engagement, for being such great participants throughout this learning path. Uh, I would like to now take the opportunity to invite all our participants to mention any thoughts they have about the about this learning path series in general, to input in our chats. We will also be sending a feedback form next week. Um, so going forward, next week on Tuesday or Wednesday, I will send out an email with further communication about the feedback form, about assessments as well as certificates. Just letting all our participants know. And thank you so much, Veena ma'am, for taking the time out and making sure that you are available for all of these 2 full weeks. I think it was a lot of work. And thank you so much for being there. Would you like to share your thoughts on the learning path?
Yeah, Mansi, it was really great having these sessions with the Firki team. The participants were really, really, interactive, and I heard most of them were, interacting with me, and I could understand that yeah, they are doing very good in their institutes. And I would also like to tell them that in case anytime they have any query regarding language, literature, or if they have any suggestions, or if they have any apprehensions regarding teaching what you call reading skills, listening skills, they can always get back to me. My email ID is gupta.veena@yahoo.com. Very simple. GUPTA. I can write it in the chat box. .veena. And my phone number as well, I'll mention. So anytime, you are most welcome to get in touch with me. Thanks a lot, the entire FIRKI team. Thanks a lot, Mansi and Prerna. Hope to, yes. Hope to get back sometime again. Wish you all the very best, all the participants. All of you will do very well in life. You all are doing very well as it is. God bless you. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And our chat box is pouring with a lot of gratitude for you. Everybody, including myself, has had a great experience attending these sessions. And I have already put in ma'am's email ID here. I will also include it in my email so that all of us can have access to it. And once again, thank you so much for taking your time and expertise and sharing it with us, ma'am. Really fortunate to have been part of these. To all our participants, ma'am has been very, very approachable, and she genuinely loves the language and literature. So if you have any questions, please do reach out to her. She's very approachable. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. And stay safe, like ma'am said, and we will get back to you with our next plans. Thank you.